Welcome to the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley, psychology student and international best-selling psychology author of over 30 psychology books, bringing you the latest psychology news, fascinating psychology topics and more each week. If you want to learn more, then please check out connorwhiteley.net/books. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube video or follow on your favourite podcast app. And here's the show. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 290 of the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley. And today's episode is on why is choosing the right psychology dissertation project critical? And it's the 4th of October 2024 as I record this. So the reason why I want to do today's podcast episode is that I know for us master's students and quite a few psychology undergrads, this is the sort of week or this is the sort of time of year which is where you decide your dissertation projects. Just you can start data collection, start writing it up. So come April or May, or whenever your school actually sets the deadline, you can submit it. Now, this is flat out critical to pick a topic that's going to interest you, because I know at my university you're sort of given the topic there, and if you really want, you can create your own one, but that's very, very uncommon. So it's always best to choose a project that you're actually going to enjoy, because lots of students just end up picking a topic at random. Some of them enjoyed, some of them don't. And if you do not enjoy your dissertation project, then you are going to have a hell of a year, because you are not going to enjoy it. You're not going to have the motivation to work. You're not going to do anything. This will not benefit you at all. Besides, it will give you a degree. But a dissertation, a final year project, is so much more than that. It's a way to make friends, make connections. That's what happened to me. It's a chance to gain research skills. It's a chance to talk to amazing participants. Like the conversations I had with some participants were just beyond brilliant. So this is something that you can have fun with. Do not make this a snap decision, or do not make this a throwaway decision that you don't care about. Enjoy it. So that's what we're going to focus on in today's podcast episode. So you've got that to look forward to in the content part. So moving on to the psychology news section, we're going to be reading from the British Psychological Society Research Digest. And the first one is, what's behind a blush? Even the boldest of us will be familiar with the experiences of blushing whilst feeling embarrassed, shy, shameful, or even proud. There is an ongoing debate, however, about what exactly triggers these flushes. Is it caused by an automatic sudden surge of alertness when we are exposed to other people's judgments, or does it only happen when we reflect on what other people may be perceiving us? To investigate which explanation might be right, Nicola, I'm so sorry I butchered that, at the University of Amsterdam and colleagues looked at what happened when 40 young participants watched videos of themselves and other people doing a particularly challenging round of karaoke. I will read one paragraph. Overall, the team writes these results support the theory that blushing is triggered by a sudden surge of alertness when we are socially exposed, not as Darwin suggested, by thinking about others might be thinking about us. This was further boosted by the analysis of data from 2 questionnaires that the participants also completed, which probed their levels of embarrassment whilst in the scanner and their levels of social anxiety generally. If people who were more socially anxious or who felt particularly embarrassed blushed more, that could suggest a role for reflection on how we might be coming across to other in triggering blushing. However, the team did not find any such links. Okay, so it's good that we've actually got researchers to support a particular theory, because even though to some extent you could argue this is a common sense, in reality it's not, because there are a lot of psychological findings that suggest that common sense is simply not the case. Milgram is actually a brilliant example of this. It is common sense to presume humans would not want to do the Milgram egg experiment at all, but people went up to 450 votes, which would kill people about 10 times over. Of course, I'm joking about the 10 times bit, but you get what I mean though. So it's always good to challenge common sense assumptions, because there are times when common sense assumptions will be flat out wrong. But something I would find quite interesting about now we know why we blush is there a way to overcome it? Is there a way to train your mind just to go, or to catch yourself going, yes, I'm being judged by other people, yes, I'm being exposed socially, but is it possible to calm down? So I don't think there's any major need for it, but I think it would just be interesting. And at least we now know when we're in a Paris, we know why we're blushing, which is always useful. So the second one is, when mindfulness falters, hope may help. Many industries were and continue to be impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, including those that rely on in-person operations like leisure, hospitality, and the arts. Here in the UK, for example, the art sector suffered 60% decline in output. Such figures represent a serious material, financial, and emotional challenge for artists. Writing in Stress and Health, a team from Charleston University and North Carolina State University look at how some of these art workers develop their resilience in the face of significant work challenges. Through a series of interviews with those working in the music industry, they find evidence that whilst mindfulness was not a broadly effective way to get through to the other side of this intensely stressful period, another approach was hope. So I quite like this article because I've always had a slight vendetta. No, vendetta is the wrong word, but I've always had a minor dislike for mindfulness. Not only because I can't do it, but also because it is so hyped up. It is so hyped up, and there is so much research that says it does not work. And it just part of part of it just bugs me that there's such a hyperfixation on it from the general public, when in reality it's not this cure magic bullet that everyone should be completely obsessed and some people aren't even willing to accept or even acknowledge that it doesn't work for everyone though. So it just slightly bugs me. But I think hope, no, wait, before I talk about hope, mindfulness is important in the sense that it is very good to be focusing on the moment and be in the present, accept the past and not the future, those sort of things. So yes, focus on present. And yes, mindfulness can be very, very effective, but it's not this pure magic bullet that everyone makes it out to be, and that irritates me. Hope I can definitely understand though, because I know at times when I'm feeling hopeless, then that does make everything feel so much harder. But if you have hope, like I've been trying to have for the past 24 weeks, it is a very powerful force though, because you want to survive whatever you're going through. You want to see the other side. You want to continue working. So it's very good. It's a powerful tool, and I think that if we can sort of create a hope based intervention, then that might actually be very, very good. Oh, yeah, that is actually quite an interesting idea. So, the last one is, how to seem wise around the world. We all know someone that we consider wise, whether that be a public figure, a friend, or a family member. Yet what we think of as wisdom can vary hugely from person to person, influenced by our politics, our philosophies, or our culture. In nature communications, a multinational team takes a look at what people from around the world consider to be wise. Working with 16 cultural diverse samples from 11 countries, they find significant variation culture to culture, expanding our understanding of what it means to be wise beyond the global north. So whilst I'm not going to go into the BPS Research Digest write-up, what I am going to talk about is cultural research as a whole, though. Cultural research is absolutely critical because, and this actually goes beyond weird samples, in terms of Western, educated, I can never remember the R, industrialized and democratic nations. Oh, it's so annoying. I can never remember the R. And I know as soon as I look it up, I'm going to get annoyed. Anyway, though, so with this whole issue about the global north and so much research being done in the West, psychology, that goes beyond being weird. Not only because it does bias our research and it biases our findings, but there's so much cultural variation. And we can say, and all we can actually say in Western psychology research is yes, this is effective for Western people. We cannot apply it to Africans, we cannot apply it to Asians, we cannot apply it to people in Australia. Well, we can sort of for most of it. But there are just so many people that we cannot relate this to, including people from South America. So this is why we've got to try and do more cultural research whenever we possibly can. But just so we can generalize our findings to the human race and possibly find any universal behavioral trends, because that is one of the purposes of psychology, and sometimes cultural differences can be even more fascinating than the similarities. So that's my take on cultural research. So I hope you enjoy the psychology news section, so let's move on to the personal update. So moving on to the personal update. Overall, this week has been really good because I finally have my audio booth down in Canterbury. I no longer have to drive to Medway, so I'm standing in my audio booth in my house. Thankfully, it's going really well at the moment. Two of my housemates are off, having their lectures. One of them's having a German lecture because they're doing this as an optional module this year, and my other friend is doing some physics stuff, maybe quantum physics at this time of day. So, really good. And my other housemate is just in their room, which is right behind my audio booth. Thankfully, they're being quiet. So, it's really good. I'm so happy that I got my audio booth back there. And you might see some YouTube shorts appearing on the YouTube channel at the Psychology World podcast over the next week. But in terms of general stuff, I'm really, really excited because as a part of my outreach work, I've been asked to design a psychology lecture, a library research task, and a seminar task for year 12 students. So these are 16 and 17-year-old students. And I'm having a lot of fun with this. I finally got round to planning it. I've got a 1 week deadline because I've been so busy helping other people this week I've not been able to do it, and I was given a 2 week deadline. So what I'm titling it, I actually don't remember the exact title, but it's something along the lines of how do we reduce re-offending. So I'm going to talk about punishment, so the psychological theories of punishment. And then I'm also going to talk about why don't long prison sentences work, and most importantly, why rehabilitation does work, and why it is flat out critical if we want to reduce the offending and reduce the burden on the criminal justice system because of people who reoffend. So it's going to be a great one. I'm really looking forward to it. And then I've got some really good discussion questions. Speaking of which, next week I've actually got a presentation for my neuropsychology of aging module. So I've got one, so me and the group that I'm presenting, we've got 1 week to read a paper, create a presentation, and then after the presentation, we've got 2 weeks to write our seminar report, which I'm actually really looking forward to. For some reason, I really did not expect myself to say that, but I honestly am. So sure, there's still like mental health stuff, but therapy was good to this week. So as always, I always love to hear your thoughts and feelings on today's episode. So you can always email me at connorwhiteley.net/podcast, and you can always tweet me on Twitter at sci-fi Whiteley. I always love to hear from all of you because it really helps make the podcast feel more like a conversation. And today's episode has been sponsored by my brand new book, Third Year Survival Guide, a psychology student's guide to the final year of their undergrad degree. So this book I'm really pleased with because I know that there's a lot of concern about your final year of your undergrad degree. I know all second years are nervous about it, and even final year students are concerned about it because they know it's really important. It's their final year. Well, final year though, they've got to try and do their best. They've also got their dissertation, and on and on and on. There are a lot of concerns, but what's great, really engaging and easy to understand a book does is that it breaks down your third year. It gives you a lot of advice, tips and tricks that will help you, and it explains a lot how things might possibly work. Of course, this is just based on my own personal situation and my own experience, but it's such a useful book. And you also will get to hear about some of the stuff that I struggled with in my final year and how I overcame it. So this is a really useful, a really packed guide that is going to help you so much in the final year of your undergrad degree. So there is a third year survival guide available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get the paperback and the hardback version from Amazon, local bookstore or local library if you requested. Or you can get the AI generated audiobook available from selected audiobook retailers, including Spotify, Google Play, Kobo, and Barnes & Noble, and selected library systems like Baker & Taylor, Biblioteca, and Overdrive. So, whilst buying books helps to support the creation and the editing of the podcast, my time is sponsored by my wonderful patrons. And as always, a massive thank you to my patrons because your support shows that you like the show and you want it to continue. So if you wanted to become a patron of the show, now you can at patreon.com/the Psychology World Podcast. Or if you wanted to support the podcast on a one-off basis, now you can at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. So that's enough of the personality. Let's move on to the content part of today's episode. So we're moving on to the content part of today's episode. So we're going to be talking about why is choosing the right psychology dissertation project critical. So this is an extract from my brand new book, and I hope you enjoy. Ask any university psychology student and they will tell you that the final year project or dissertation, as it's called by some universities, is the most important part of your final year at university, and as much as I want to say that it flat out isn't, I can't. Your final year project might not be as do or die as everyone makes out, but it is critical and it will form a lot of your final grade for your final year. Therefore, deciding on what final year project you want to do is critical because your degree, your happiness, and your ability to enjoy the next academic year basically depends on this single decision. In addition, my final year project was a cognitive psychology project, even though I hate cognitive psychology. studying transfer learning in retrieval-based learning tasks using EEG equipment so we could see the neuro evidence enrolled in this type of learning for the first time. How do students go about choosing a final year project? As a result, in my egg experiments, the way how choosing a final year project works is that in May or June of the second year at university, you're emailed a list of projects that you can sign up for. This list includes all the projects that the psychology academics at your university are offering. Stepping out of the chapter, this year my university's actually changed it, just so it's the September of your final year, which some people like, some academics don't. Going now back to the chapter. You can look at this list and find the project title, description and name, and how many people can apply for the topic. This is where my first insider tip comes from. If there is a particular academic in mind that you want to work with, definitely email them before this list is published, and they might hold a space for you until you can officially reply through the list. As whenever a year person signs up through this list, the student information gets passed on to the academic so they can sort through the applications. This is why you normally have to email the academic as well, so they can hear why you're interested in the project and want to work with them. Yes, at times choosing a final year project really is like a job application. Anyway, after you've looked at this list, you need to decide what project you can apply for. You might want to apply for a couple in the case of one of them gets oversubscribed, but just follow your own university's advice about this part of the process. However, when choosing your final year project, I cannot stress these factors enough when making your decision. Why is choosing the right academic important? Every single year without fail, I hear horror stories about students having a nightmare with their academic supervisor because of how busy and useless they are. The entire point of an academic supervisor is to help you, be there to answer questions and have meetings with you so you can do your best. That all depends on the supervisor themselves. This year, I know a lot of students that were struggling with their final year project because they couldn't get a meeting with their supervisor. Their supervisor was rubbish at answering questions, and students just had one problem after another with the supervisor themselves. How did you solve this? Obviously, by choosing a good supervisor. But if you're a second year at a university and you happen to run into some psychology third years, definitely ask them about supervisors and any horror stories they've heard. You need this information so you can make an informed decision about what to do and who to pick as your supervisor. Also, I want to mention that even the most boring sounding project can be made brilliant by a supervisor. For example, I have no interest in cognitive psychology at all, yet I loved my final year project because of the supervisor and his PhD student. Your supervisor really can be the difference between a terrible final year project and a great one, at least in terms of how much you enjoy it. Finally, I should just say that from what I've heard about supervisors from my friends this year, avoid head of schools because they always tend to be extremely busy and they don't have time for final year project students and the questions they have to ask. Even though they would call me a liar, my friends would agree with me. Why the project itself is so important. So I really doubt this will be a major surprise to anyone, but choosing the right final year project itself is so critical. Let me just explain why in a very scary sentence. You will be spending the next academic year of your life researching this topic. Do you really want to be researching something you hate for the next year? Of course not. You would hate that, your happiness would die, and you would just hate your life. I don't want that for you. Therefore, you really need to choose a project that you naturally love, or you need to choose a project with a brilliant supervisor. That will make the next year for you so much better. Personally, I decided on the latter for my final year project. I naturally would have loved a forensic or clinical psychology topic, since these things are the areas that I love in psychology. Yeah, I don't like change. I wanted to be more social, and I knew my supervisor for my placement year was brilliant, and he did socials. That's important for something I'll talk about later on. Therefore, I decided to do a final year project with my placement supervisor because I knew how great he was. There would be socials, and I knew I would have a lot of fun. Also, I really wanted to experiment with EEG equipment, so I chose that final year project so I could get to use a certain type of equipment. Overall, whenever it comes to choosing a final year project, only you know what will make you happy, make you passionate, and make you look forward to the year ahead. That is what a final year project is all about. You will be researching your project for the next year, and if you choose a project without thinking about it and what would make you happy, then you might regret it. I've heard a lot of stories this year about students that have hated their final year projects. I don't want you to be one of them. Therefore, please just think about your final year projects, consider what would make you happy, and consider who you want your supervisor to be. All of those factors are critical and might very well be the difference between a great final year and one that you hate. So, I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode and you got something out of it. I know that I did, because it's always great fun to look over these chapters that I wrote a few years ago, because they really do capture a snapshot in time, and I still stand by everything that I said. So, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's episode, then please share it with them. Always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the podcast. And definitely check out Third Year Survival Guide, available in all the usual places. And you can become a patron of the show if you want to support the podcast on a monthly basis at patreon.com/the Psychology World Podcast. Or you can buy me a coffee if you want to support the podcast on a one-off basis at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. So have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today. I hope you found it helpful. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the podcast on your favourite podcast app. And if you wanted to learn more, then please check out the backlist of the podcast episodes or my books at connorwhiteley.net. So have a great day, and I'll see you next time.